What is up, my GSD MFers? Welcome to another episode of Get Shit Done. My name is Josh. Two words you hear me say all the time: accountability and expectations. And I say them so often, it probably sounds like I'm saying them in passing. But I'm going to dive into those two things today, because I want you to understand the importance of them, the necessity of them, the requirement of them. When you look at any relationship that you have, personal relationship, professional relationship, partnership, any relationship, any successful relationship that you have, expectations and accountability are a requirement. They're a non-negotiable to successful relationships. And I think that because of the difficulty of expectations and difficulty of holding people accountable, it limits the success of relationships, which ultimately in turn impacts the success of other things. Finances, professional growth, business, fitness, health, sex, whatever. I think it has such an impact on so many other things in life because people are afraid to tell people what they expect, and people are afraid to hold people accountable to those expectations. So when you look at expectations and accountability, you have to understand that you cannot have one without the other. See, you can't hold people accountable to unclear or unknown expectations. And I also cannot give you expectations without understanding that I'm going to hold you accountable. As a matter of fact, accountability is an expectation. And this requires a few things. One, it requires emotional discipline. Now, I always throw this asterisk in. Emotional discipline is not emotional suppression, but it does require emotional discipline. A second thing that it requires is hard conversations. Hard conversations are necessary to hold people accountable. They're necessary to set clear expectations. It also requires emotional maturity, intellectual maturity, psychological maturity. You cannot have healthy, strong, forward-moving conversations about expectations and holding people accountable if you're not fucking mature enough to understand that people have to have those conversations with you. This is one of the problems I see with parenting, bad parenting. Fucking because I said so. Go fuck yourself. Because that's a one-way, that's a top-down structure to accountability and expectations. You don't think that anyone under you, below you, is allowed to hold you accountable or have expectations of you. You're a fucking idiot if that's what you think. You can see that I get pretty excited about this relationship advice, this success advice of accountability and expectations, because everything that has fucking failed in my life is due to these lacking ingredients, is really due to, a big part of it is due to, not the whole thing, but a big part of a lot of it is due to the accountability and the expectations factor. We will so often choose the path of least resistance that causes us more pain in the long run because we don't want short-term discomfort doing the things that we need to fucking do. There's conversations that you need to be having with somebody right now, I can tell you that. You need to be calling somebody out on something. You need to be having hard conversations with somebody. Because when you allow things to happen in your life that conflict with who you are miserable. And everything suffers. But worse than that, everyone around you that supports you suffers. because you're not willing to do the hard things that are necessary. I mentioned that these were big contributors to most of my failures, and they'll probably be contributors to failures that I experience in the future. Let's just be real. This isn't a perfect thing. It doesn't always go right. But by me not having the conversations necessary and understanding and setting expectations, and then not only holding people accountable, but the other party allowing me to hold them accountable, it's one of the reasons I lost my HVAC business. Because that was a great example of top-down accountability, of top-down expectations. So if you own a business and you think that no one's allowed to hold you accountable, you're a fucking idiot. Because when you take on the role of ownership, everyone gets to hold you accountable. Your team, your clients, the market, the bank, the vendors, everybody gets to hold you accountable. It is not an escape from accountability. It's an introduction to the highest level of accountability. But you need to recognize what it is that you should be doing. And one of the misunderstandings of accountability and one of the misunderstandings of expectations is we assume that people are going to hold themselves to our standard. They're going to hold themselves to a level of accountability that we want. And it does not work that way. You have to have conversations. A little bit of dichotomy here. This is not a right or wrong conversation. And that's something I've experienced too much is when the conversations come up about accountability and expectations, it's really a form of manipulation down the direction of right and wrong. That's not what this is. I'm not talking about your arbitrary metric of right and wrong. I'm talking about the agreement of expectations and the process of accountability. So don't come at me with this right and wrong bullshit. But people can't meet your expectations if they don't know what they are, and people will choose the path of least resistance if you don't hold them accountable. And again, I'm going to say it. You have to be understanding and open to people holding you accountable. There are a couple people in my life that I know and they know that they can have hard conversations with me, and I'm not going to attack them. It's a very small number, very, 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 very small number. But those few people know who they are and know that, hey, if I'm heading in a direction I don't need to be heading in, or doing something I don't need to be doing, or just doing something that necessarily I don't need to be doing it just doesn't align with what we discussed or with what we agreed on. And they know that they can have those conversations with me. My Katie is one of them. Katie can have those conversations with me, and she 100% knows that I'm not going to get defensive. I'm not going to manipulate the conversation. I'm not going to turn it around on her. I'm not going to start using metrics of right and wrong. And I'm not going to, this right here is one of my fucking most frustrating ones. I'm not going to keep score of things that have happened in the past and then go, well, you did this and you did that. That's why I stated earlier, the level of maturity that you must have to maintain and build ultra successful relationships in the aspect of expectations and accountability is ridiculously high. And something that I saw in an interview recently, they said, it was Cody Sanchez. I'm a huge Cody Sanchez fan. She said, if you're not willing to have hard conversations, you do not deserve a business. And I'm going to take that a little bit further. if you are not willing to have hard conversations, if you are not willing to set and understand and receive expectations, and if you are not willing to hold people accountable and have the willingness to be held accountable, you don't fucking deserve a business. You don't deserve a relationship. You don't deserve anything other than mediocrity because that's what you're fucking choosing. I get frustrated when I see businesses and relationships and people fight for mediocrity. They fucking fight tooth and nail for mediocrity. And they justify it in any way possible because that is what is easy to them in the moment. See, when I started this podcast and I started this business, it came from a desire to help people not experience what I experienced, to help people understand what's necessary to have a successful company, a successful partnership, to become a successful leader, and build a successful team. Because I love to see people win. And I love it so much that I don't want you to experience what I experienced in the process of losing. And that's why when I talk about things like this and I get so fired up, it's because, yes, I get frustrated when people fight to fail. I mean, they truly fight to fail. And again, I'm not talking about right and wrong because I think that's arbitrary, but you've got to understand who you need to be. And I mentioned it earlier, what are you allowing in your life that conflicts with who you truly are? That's where you need to start. You need to start with that conversation. That conversation may be with yourself. That confliction in behavior might be with yourself. And if you don't think I've been there, we can do an entire episode of the stupid shit and dumbass fucking decisions that I've made in my past, in recent, and probably ones I'll make in the future that derail me from growth and success. But you've got to have that mindfulness. You've got to have that sense of awareness. And you have to have that fucking humility and emotional discipline and emotional maturity to have these conversations. I'm thankful for the people that I have in my life that I can have these conversations with, because they're the ones that make me grow. They're the ones that pull my head out of my own ass and help me see the direction that I'm heading in. So you've got to have those players on your team. You've got to have those high performers. You've got to have those get shit done motherfuckers in your corner that are going to tell you the truth. They're the ones that are going to help you be successful. They're the ones that are going to set and understand expectations, and they're the ones that are going to hold you accountable. Because you cannot have a successful relationship without expectations and accountability. Till next time, get shit done.